This video has a plot twist, and, well, I don't want to spoil it for you. Let's just get started. Welcome to the Astronomy Garage. I'm your host, Reflector. Today, we've got a strange one for you. As you know, one of my favorite small Dobsonian telescopes is this guy. It's the Orion Starblast, and it has a 4.5-inch parabolic mirror at the back. This is a high-quality telescope. The only problem is that you can't buy one of these brand new anymore because Orion went out of business. However, one of my viewers, we'll call him Billy, he was able to buy one of these before they went out of business, and when it arrived, it didn't have a secondary diagonal mirror up here at the front. It should look something like this. Now, when I say it doesn't have a mirror, I don't mean that it was rattling around inside the box. I mean that it came all the way from the factory to Billy's house without the secondary mirror. So he purchased one on the internet, and he put it in a box along with the tube, and he shipped it to me, and I've offered my restoration services to install it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to install a secondary mirror. And we're going to use a method that should work on most Newtonian telescopes. Well, the box has arrived. Let's take a look. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. It's this is very nicely packed. Oh, there's that. This is he included a return shipping, which is very kind of him. We use the same box, same packing. Here it is. It's everything. It's all the basics. Let's look in the front, and sure enough, there's no diagonal mirror. Look at that. How did that leave the factory like that? Put this up on the table. And here's the replacement mirror. Let's put this on the workbench and see what we got. All right, so, boy, this is really well packed. I have replacement bubble wrap, so. And of course, we got to pop two of these. There we go. All right, we've got an eyepiece. We'll be testing this. Which one is this? Let's see. This one that we're testing with is a, I don't know if you can read that. It says Bertel 4-element 20 millimeter. It's got a really nice little storage thing right there. Right. But here's the part that we're interested in. This is the mirror. Very careful. All right. So here's the mirror. It's wrapped in some very soft lens paper or tissue paper. There we go. So look at that. That is a beautiful diagonal mirror. And we're going to install that in his Orion Starblast. First, let me wrap this back up. So right away, I do want to show some differences that are interesting. This is mine. I've marked mine in blue, and this is Billy's. Now, they're very, very similar. His has a nice dovetail mount for his viewfinder, or red dot finder, whatever he uses. And mine did not. Mine just has these two pegs that come up, and I put this generic mount for my red dot finder on it. And something interesting is that the spider on mine is held on with these big chrome bolts, and his is actually held on with these Phillips head screws. So I'm curious to open this up and see what they look like inside. Also, the back ends are slightly different. All right, again, so mine has the blue tape, and here is Billy's. So Billy's is obviously much newer than mine. Mine, I think, was pre-pandemic, probably. So that's interesting. Let's take a look at this. So this has lock screws, and it has the collimation bolts. It's got 3 of those, right? 3 sets of those. And it has this black cardboard here, I guess. That's to block any light from coming in through the back of this. And on Billy's, it has these really nice big collimation bolts, but the lock screws are Phillips head screws. What is kind of nice about Billy's, though, is that the mirror cell, this part on the back, actually comes out further than the collimation screws. So technically, you could set Billy's telescope down on the back end, upside down, and it would not mess with the collimation screws. With mine, you can't do that. If you were to try to set this down on this end, you'd be basically setting all the weight on the collimation screws. Now, fortunately, this telescope is super light, so it's not really going to be a problem. But I've always favored Dobsonians or Newtonians that the telescope can be set on the back end without crushing the collimation screws. So next, let's take a look at the spiders. I'm going to flip these upside down. All right, so as far as the dust covers go, they are pretty much almost identical. That guy, that's mine. There's Billy's. Yeah, they're probably exactly the same. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. This has kind of an aluminum central secondary mirror holder. You can see my secondary mirror right there, right? And it has these metal vanes that are attaching from the chrome nuts out here all the way to the side of the secondary holder, and you have 3 collimation screws. And over on Billy's, this is very interesting actually. His vanes, they're made out of this really stiff, hard plastic. I mean, it's pretty strong. I won't fault him for that. The plastic is actually very strong. And but it doesn't have the chrome nuts out here. Let's go back over here. So we got the chrome nuts there and a Phillips head screw. And that Phillips head screw just holds this front ring on. And over here, this Phillips head screw holds the front ring on, but this looks to all be one solid unit out of plastic. Now, I suspect this was made during the pandemic or post-pandemic. One thing I really like about Billy's is that they apparently did go ahead and fix the focuser, because the focuser on his is not really wobbly. If you recall, and I have a whole video dedicated to this, the focuser on mine was pretty wobbly, and I have this tape fix in there for if you have an older one of these Starblasts. So we're going to go ahead and remove the secondary mirror holder on mine and the secondary mirror holder on Billy's so that we can compare them and get the positioning just right. Okay, so to get the secondary mirror out of mine, I'm just going to take these 4 chrome nuts off. To make sure it doesn't fall. Okay. So this is what it should look like. And this is held on with, they're using double stick tape. We're not going to use double stick tape. What's pretty fascinating is that this is all metal. Even the secondary holder that attaches to the back of the mirror is metal. I'm going to set this carefully to the side. We're just going to remove the secondary mirror. And again, this whole front pops off of his. All right, there we go. That came out pretty easy. Let's take a look at it. There's Billy's. Look at that. There's no mirror. Where'd it go? No mirror for Billy. So we're going to go ahead and install a mirror. So when you look down there, you can see the center circle. We're going to use that when we do the collimation, and it's pretty nice. And there's something. Oh, wait a second. Hang on. Hang on. Let me get some light down here. Let me focus on that. Do you see something? Oh my! Look at that. There it is. That's the secondary mirror. There it is. That's it. Okay, this changes everything. There's the secondary mirror, and it looks like there is a little bit of double stick tape on it. It's in there. Okay, so here it is. It's actually wedged right here between the main parabolic mirror and the side. And if there were 2 ways for it to be wedged, it's wedged in the way that the aluminized coating is least likely to be scratched. So it's a 50-50 chance. It might be okay. I'm going to try to retrieve it. I've got a rubber glove on, doctor's orders, and I'm going to try to get that out of here. And we'll see if the mirror is salvageable. I'm going to be very careful because the double stick tape is usually pretty sticky. Oh boy, it's stuck on the main mirror. Oh. Okay. Look at that. It's in perfect shape. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully it's not jumping in and out of focus. It's in perfect shape. And it still has the double stick tape on the back with this. It has the shape of the secondary mirror, that backing. So, whoops! Just kidding. No, there it is. So we'll compare this to the one that he bought. But I don't think we need to use that one. He'll probably be able to return that one. If you're enjoying this video, please push the like and subscribe button. It means the world to little channels like this. So I'm going to take a couple sheets of lens cleaner glass, just sit there. Let's compare this to the one that he bought. So they're basically identical. They look like they're identical in shape and size. Yeah. The stock one's a little bit thicker. If you can see that. It's a little bit thicker, but that's about it. This is the one that fell out. Now, it is not absolutely 100% perfect. There is just a tiny little scratch. Let me see if you can see this. It's very hard to see. It's nothing to worry about. So I'm going to go ahead and reuse this. Now the question is, do we reuse this double stick tape? Because clearly it's failed once. Or do we use the tried and true method of using the 100% aquarium sealant? It's a silicone sealant. It takes about 24 hours to cure, but it gives basically a completely torsion-free mount system. So there's no stress on the mirror itself. All I have to do is measure how thick this pad is and pick out some spacers that will mimic that. So I'm going to set this back down. Okay, so I have gone ahead using my calipers and measured the thickness of the double stick tape. It is about 30 thousandths of an inch thick. So for a spacer, I will typically use either a washer or, let's try this dime. See how thick this dime is. 50 thousandths thick. So I'm going to go ahead and find 3 washers that will adequately work. One thing to note is that, Orion knows best as to where this goes on the back, and it looks pretty centered. So I'm going to trace this with a pencil to leave an outline on the glass before I remove the double stick tape. This is especially important for this telescope because the whole front end is a fixed giant block of plastic, so there's no adjustment sideways, either this way or that way, once we get it installed. So we have to be very careful to mount it on the stalk very carefully. I'm being very gentle, using very low pressure. Trying to keep my fingers out of the way, obviously. So this is the only part we need. We're going to glue this to the mirror. So we're going to take this off, and it just takes a Phillips head screwdriver. There's normally a spring in here. Okay, guess not. Here's the 3 collimation screws. All right, so we're going to glue this to the back of that mirror. Okay, so let me explain what I have here. I have the mirror. I have a stack of business cards that are up at about level with the back of the mirror. And of course, here is the diagonal piece. I have a piece of steel here. It's actually just a steel nut that is acting as a counterweight, because otherwise, when you set this down, it wants to fall back. It wants to fall back that way. So this makes it flat. We're going to put the dimes on. That. Okay, let's do a test fit. We're just going to set this right where it was sitting before. I'm basing it on the pencil lines that I traced. And that's looking pretty good. That weight is keeping everything flat. So here's the silicone sealant we're going to use. It's 100% clear silicone. It never hardens. It always stays flexible, but it does stick to things. And a couple of things. It's very sticky. It will stick to anything that it touches. And more importantly, it really stinks. So make sure you do this either outside or in a well-ventilated garage or something like that.
This mirror is pretty small, but as the diameter grows, the weight grows really fast. If you have a bigger mirror, make sure you use a lot more silicone sealant.
That's about all we need. All right, so I'm gonna set this down on it as close as I can to where I think it is. I'm going to have to block out the camera here for a minute to get right over this. If you think it might help, you can thread this screw in just to get the alignment right. It's pretty lightweight compared to the weight of that nut. You don't want any of the silicone to get on the spacers, so be very careful. You use a pencil to, I like to get a little bit up on the sides of the secondary holder just to give a little bit of extra grip. Now if you need to, you can rotate this if this helps make the alignment a little bit easier, because you do want to make sure this is aligned this way. I think we have forward and back pretty good, but you do want to align it. Alright, so we'll let it sit for about 24 hours and it should be ready to reinstall and collimate. Okay, let's see what we've got. Pull the dimes out. It's on there very sturdy, look at that. So let's take the counterweight off. We're going to put it back on this spider. Now, I marked this for the focuser right here. I put a little arrow right there. Shows the focuser. So we want the mirror to basically point that way. So just going to thread this little screw right there. Make sure it's lined up. Okay. I'm just going to get it close. All right. There we go. Let's put it back in the end of the telescope. Now, there's a little cutout right there. That's where the seam is. So we'll put it in there. Line this up and put the screws in. Let's see what our initial alignment looks like. Do we see the center circle? It's a little off, so I'm going to go ahead and collimate this.
Okay, so it's a little bit off.
Okay, so I'm going to adjust these 3 collimation screws to get the red dot right in the middle of that tiny little circle back there. Now I'm going to adjust these 3 collimation screws until that laser dot gets right in the middle.
That's a little bit better.
Well, it's all collimated and everything looks pretty good. We're going to have to test it. So I've taken Billy's tube, I put his eyepiece in it, and I put a red dot finder that I have hanging around, and I've mounted it on my Starblast base. We're going to take it out and see if we can find the moon with this. Now, it's very cloudy out there, but I'm hoping that we can see the moon at least a little bit. We got a small break in the clouds, and this telescope is working great. Well, Billy's telescope is all fixed and it's ready to ship back to him. And all it took was 3 globs of silicone sealant. This is a task that any of you could do at home if you find that you need to replace the secondary mirror in your Newtonian telescope. As for the silicone sealant, you can use the Amazon affiliate link that I have down in the description box, or you can just go to your local pet store, walk over to the aquarium section, and you should see it hanging there. It's often called aquarium sealant. There's one little detail I haven't told you about. On the back of this are the collimation screws. And we have the 3 chrome collimation screws, and we have these 3 black Phillips head locking screws. Now, they're all fine and good, and that'll work, but a lot of people keep these in their trunk, or they take them camping, and those little Phillips head screws can be fiddly out in the middle of nowhere. So I've ordered some 5mm knurled chrome screws to replace those Phillips head screws. And the strangest thing happened. Amazon sent them, but they never arrived. They went somewhere, but all the tracking information is lost on them. It's kind of a strange situation. But if they do show up before I ship this back to Billy, I will go ahead and replace those Phillips head screws with the new chrome ones. and that'll make it all the more easy to collimate when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Many thanks to Billy for shipping the telescope here so I could tinker on this amazing Orion Starblast telescope. Now, if you want to see the other 2 videos that I've done on the Orion Starblast telescope, check out these links right here. You might find them pretty interesting. Thank you for watching the Astronomy Garage. I'm your host, Refractor. Clear skies, everybody.